everyone, welcome to another episode of the GCS Connect Leaders Series. I'm here with Mike Burke today. He's the MD of BOE Varitronix, which is one of the leading display manufacturer in the world, and we'll find out more about them. Great to have Mike with us today. 30 years in the electronics industry. The electronics and manufacturing industry is something that GCS works in very closely, both in terms of device, electronics, and it's great to have a real leader in the industry on the podcast today. Just to kind of quickly introduce, so GCS is a technology and engineering recruiter. The GCS Connect is our way of building up a community of expert talent in innovative companies, of which BOE is definitely one. And the Leader Series is where we get leaders from our network to kind of come on and talk about business, technology, innovation, and being a leader. So, Mike, hopefully that's a good enough introduction to yourself. Take us through a little bit about what you do and your kind of background, a little bit about BAE, so BOE. I'll try not to say BAE, BOE, in terms of what you guys do and what you do within the business.
Okay, so hi David. So BOE is a very large Chinese display manufacturer. When we say display, we're talking about liquid crystal displays, OLED displays. They are the world leader. They're the largest manufacturer with the kind of largest market share in all the major markets. So BOE as a whole company, all the factories are in China, and they're supplying every kind of application from mobile phones, TVs, laptops, tablets, all that kind of stuff. I work for, and I run the European part of BOE, which is BOE Varitronix. So I've looked after 6 European offices, where BOE Varitronix is the kind of specialist part of BOE, where we are probably 70% of our business is automotive. So we're putting screens into cars for sat-nav, cruise control, clusters, sat-nav clusters, that kind of thing. And the other part of our business is primarily industrial, medical, different markets. So we're not in Europe. We don't have many mobile phone manufacturers and things like that. So we are focused more on the kind of more of the specialist arm of it.
And it's interesting. It's obviously a very kind of big growth market, and I think when we were talking before, you know, the way that displays are now linking in with much more kind of, you know, high-tech software, that sort of thing is a really big move for you. And I guess you guys have to really adapt to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started in the industry in 91, you said an LCD, you were talking about a little kind of black and white, very small display, the kind of thing you saw in calculators and watches. And then throughout the 90s, we started to see what we call TFTs, color LCD. The first laptops appeared with a color LCD in it, and then it's kind of progressed from there. We, in the automotive side of things, if you go back to the 90s, cars had maybe a small little monochrome display, and nowadays, you know, if you look in any car, the screens are huge. They're getting bigger. It's critical for controlling the car. So if you look at car manufacturers, especially the electric vehicles of the future, the screen controls everything in the car. It gives you all the feedback, so it's kind of safety critical. But it is something that has become a lot more important. So we're not.
So it's really going to be like a steering wheel and a screen, isn't it? Really, that's probably how it will end up.
Well, if you look in, some cars at the moment, I'm not a massive fan, but I've seen one particular brand that's quite well famous, and they literally have a steering wheel and a great big screen in it. The screen does everything. Everything. So I'm
just trying to think now of things you couldn't really do so easily on the screen. So I guess, you know, indicators might be quite tough, but you guess they get that on the
I mean, the idea with the automotive market is that in the future that the cars will be able to pretty much drive.
That's right.
So the screens maybe will be more about giving you information, maybe entertainment, feeding you news, that kind of stuff. So whether that really comes, I don't know. But
that's all very exciting, and the display becomes even more important, which is obviously good for your business. But let's reel it back a little bit to kind of the start. So as a leader, you know, what are the kind of key kind of business challenges that you've had to overcome? I mean, we are very aware the last 12 months has been very challenging. That's one of the reasons why we're talking to leaders with more experience to say this isn't obviously the first challenge you've had to overcome. So what are the key ones and how do they match together, do you think?
For me personally, I've working in this industry. All of our manufacturing has always been in Asia. So for the first 15 years of my life, I worked in distribution, where I was working with suppliers in Japan and Korea and Taiwan. And then for the last 15 years working for BOE Varitronix, then I'm actually working for the manufacturer. And one of the biggest challenges is the distances between everybody. So it's quite interesting that obviously COVID last 12 months has been very tough, very difficult for everybody, and communication has been really key. So everybody is now reverting to what we're doing, whether it's video conferencing or a lot more phoning and emails and things like that. Actually, that's been my life for the last 30 years. You know, looking at I'm already pretty used to that. So because I manage a team of people in 6 different countries in Europe. Again, I'm trying to lead. I'm trying to motivate these people. I'm trying to guide these people, and they're all in different countries. And I'm trying to get the people in our Hong Kong. Hong Kong is like a head office for part. We have 2 head offices, one in Hong Kong, one in Beijing. Most of the time, I'm talking to Hong Kong, and they're kind of the window to all of our factories. So I'm trying to lead and motivate people in Hong Kong, 6,000 miles away. And I could be working on a project that's in Germany and be manufactured in Germany. That's my customer. Could be developed in France. So I've got my team in Paris, and I've got my team in Munich, and I've got my team in Hong Kong. So we've been doing this, you know, for a long time. But I think what I've found talking to people who are not used to working from home, who are used to going into an office. You know, if you're the MD of a company or a CEO of a company, you're used to going into an office and then summoning people maybe into your office.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we were just saying that if you're watching this on the video, I'm in the office today. And if you've been watching this over the last year, you probably realize it's the first time I've been in the office for quite some time. So it was interesting. And one of the things was interesting is actually one of our investors is here today, and we had a team meeting. So we had to do a team meeting that was split over people in the office and people on video call, which is actually that broke us in terms of technology. We found that completely impossible to do. So yeah, I think we've all decided we're going back to our houses now for the future.
Yeah. So we've been trying to do that, because we often have meetings where we'll have a bunch of people in our boardroom. In fact, every Thursday morning we have a bunch of people in the boardroom in Hong Kong, maybe 20 people there. We have my team across Europe, so maybe another 12 people, dialing in, everybody from home with people in the office, and then they may get people from one of the factories to join. So we've been doing that. But that I think for us, we're lucky that we're kind of set up to do that. But for a lot of leaders, that's really tough.
I bet you've got some access to some fantastic display screens that can help you with that.
I wish.
like floor length ones or something like that.
They
like
actually, they have a video conferencing system in Hong Kong, which is I think they put you on a projector actually, because it's like almost the whole wall. So
wow, fantastic!
You can see.
There's not a lot of point in being like the leading display manufacturer in the world if you haven't got all the best displays. Exactly. And obviously this is something that probably is. I mean, talk about overcoming challenges. I'm assuming with the drive of video, it's been easier to overcome these challenges in the last few years, and you've been able to build up much better relationships as technology has caught up with what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, normally normally as a company, I'm talking to my team on video calls anyway, and I'm on the phone anyway, because they're spread all over the world. So that side of it's pretty normal. The last 12 months, the difficult part has been that all of our customer meetings have been the same. So in the past, I'd get in my car or I'd jump on a flight and I'd be in Paris, or I'd be in Germany or in Italy, and I'd go and visit the customer. We'd sit and talk about the project. We'd be in a room face to face. The challenge in the last 12 months is that nobody is in the office. Everybody's working from home. We still have all these projects going on. And so the challenge is, how do you cover so much when you're sat in front of a laptop and you're not in the same room, and you're dealing with, for me, I'm dealing with multiple languages. All right, everybody's speaking English, but it's not real English, if you know what I mean. It's always their second language. And so that in itself has been quite tricky. I'm actually looking forward to traveling again. I used to hate traveling. I used to say, oh my God, I'm in another airport because I did it so much. And now the idea is great. I think, well, yeah.
That's right, yeah. And yeah, you can actually, face to face, really kind of go into depth with people. It allows you to see a whole new thing about human beings.
I think it's really important. I think the face to face part of it, you can't do business by email. You can't do business. You know, businesses don't do business with two computers talking to each other. It's all about people. It's all about reacting quickly and talking quickly and getting through subjects. We can talk about something in a meeting with a customer, and we can cover so many topics in 1 hour. It's not so easy to do the same thing through a video call. It just doesn't flow quite as easily. So that has definitely been a challenge for us.
Just muted myself out. And I think for yourself, and obviously, you know, those communications, what would you say, like, dealing with these different teams over different periods, are some key rules you've got to overcome those kind of global team challenges, as it were?
Okay, so I always say, and I've said this for 15 years in our group, I've always said that our biggest weakness is communication. Because I think it's the biggest weakness of most companies. I think it's if you're really good at communicating, you're going to get a lot done. Things are going to go a lot better, a lot smoother. And I've always actually, however good we are doing in communicating, I always think we can do better. So communication, and it is critical for me and for my team in particular, because we go out to Asia 2, 3, 4 times a year. The rest of the year, we're reliant on sending stuff, either telephone calls or video calls or emails. So communication is really, really, really important. And I think more important nowadays, it's more important to, because not only are we doing that internally, we're also having to do that with our customers. And I'm not able to just go to a meeting in Switzerland or something and talk to the customer. I need to be able to communicate really well. So I think that the challenge, something that if you do a job like me and you're looking after multiple offices in different countries, you need to remember also that even though they may speak perfect English, there are subtle differences, and you need to be really clear. I think that a good leader is always understood by everybody. I think if you start using very complex language, and you start, and we are in a technology company, we're talking about very technical issues, but if you start using very complicated language or English slang language, then you lose people. And you won't know, when you're in a meeting room, because you see their eyes and you can see.
Yeah, they get a bit bored or whatever.
Or they have that little frown of, what does he mean? You can tell because you're face to face. But when you're communicating in the way we have to communicate at the moment, then you can lose that. So when I'm speaking to anyone in Europe, I kind of slow down, and I'm very clear, and I'm making sure that I'm getting a response. So communication is definitely
brilliant. That's really good, fantastic. And then kind of going forward for yourself, you talked about the new business environment, which probably isn't as new for you as anything else. But how do you see any changes in your personal strategy or focus over the next 12 months? Do you feel that there's going to be a real change for yourself, or do you think you will get back to normal quite quickly?
Well, I'm really keen to get out there again. I enjoy going to the meetings. I enjoy getting really involved in the projects and meeting the customers and building the relationship. So for me, my I suppose you could say my strategy is to try and get back to what we were doing before to a degree. I know that at the moment we're all stuck working from home, and we're about to come out of lockdowns, and then even when we do, there'll be certain rules and criteria, there'll be limitations, but I think that I've already kind of adapted over the last 12 months to working, instead of working a couple of days a week from home, to working pretty much 5 days a week from home. My teams are doing the same, but I do need to spend time. So even with the guys that work for me, you know, forget customers for a moment, the teams that work for me in the other countries, I need to give them some personal time. I need to go and spend time with them, make sure they're okay, make sure that their families are okay, and that, that those things, those chats you have when you're driving from one meeting to the next, and you say, hey, you know, how's your wife, how's your kids doing, that kind of stuff. So I will be definitely out there again and traveling and making sure those relationships are there. I also am quite sensitive to the small.
Do you think you'll have to because do you think you'll have to do it more now to kind of make up for what's been missed, or do you think it's?
I think that we will.
Do you think there's been some sort of disconnect over the last 12 months that you'll need to kind of resurrect?
What I'd love to do is get my whole team in Europe together and just spend a couple of days together, you know, just get everybody together, because talking on video calls and conference calls using all the different, you know, technology that's available is okay, but it's not the same. It's not the same as sitting and having a beer together in the evening and having a chat. And so that's important. You know, it's all about the people. So the one thing that I suppose my strategy once we get past COVID is to, as you say, kind of rebuild those relationships. I think now's the time when you know who are the good guys, and you know who are the really good guys, because you know, with everybody working from home, it's easy for people to kind of hide. But of course, in my position, I can see that very clearly. You know, who's hiding, who's not pulling the weight. So when you see those people who are really putting in the extra effort, then you know, I want to reward those guys. I want to go.
Yeah, for sure. No, totally. And for business leaders, what do you think are the main priorities going forward over the next 12 months, you know, in the actual business world itself?
Okay, so we've got two things. Obviously, we've got the rebuilding things of COVID. Everybody's been hit by COVID. Every industry's been hit at some degree by COVID, and so you know we have to we personally have to help our customers rebuild. All of my customers are trying to get their factories up and running again, and they're going to make sure that we can supply products. So the difficult challenge I have right now is that the consumer electronics market, which isn't really Europe, it's mainly Asia, booming. So we have a lot of shortages. We have a lot of problems with components. And so I've got to fight for my customers here in Europe. So my automotive or my industrial customers or my medical customers, you know, the guys that are typical manufacturing in Europe, they're smaller. They need my support. So they need me to fight for allocation of key components to make sure that when their orders are coming back and their factories are back online, that then I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to let them down on supply. So that's one issue. So that's a kind of the hot challenge at the moment. So
what you're saying is obviously because maybe display machines are made out there in the Far East, but also the actual big manufacturers of consumer electronics, that they would probably get those items faster.
So the household names for, I'm not going to mention any brands, but for mobile phones and laptops and TVs and all those guys, they're doing very well. You know, everybody's buying laptops and mobile phones and desktop monitors and things like that. So those guys at the moment are soaking up, you know, they're booming. They're soaking up a lot of the key components that we need when we're making a display, whether it's an LCD or OLED. And so therefore there are shortages, you know, where nobody's getting 100% of what they need. So I need to make sure that those big giant electronic manufacturers, those household names, are not kind of killing my smaller customers in Europe. So my challenge, you know, over the next few months is to fight like hell and make sure that I get what I need.
And I guess they're not always going to be smaller. Like, I don't know if you're talking about an aerospace client or whatever, it's probably smaller at the moment. But
well, the
24
thing is,
months down the line, they're going to be big again.
The thing is, when you look at the electronics industry, we are supplying. If you just take our automotive customers, we supply everybody. We supply every car manufacturer. So cars, trucks, motorbikes, everything. Wherever you see a screen, there's a good chance it came from us. if you look at those big brand names, the cars we drive, you think they are really big companies, and if we put them on production stop, it's a disaster. But actually, the volumes in automotive are tiny compared to mobile phones.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So although you've got very big, maybe some big German brand car makers, in the scheme of things, they're very small compared to the mobile phone makers, laptop makers.
But the value of the product.
So the value of their product, the value of a car is very high, but
and the value of a plane is even higher. But they only sell 100 planes as opposed to a million laptops or a mobile phone.
So if you take a mobile, some of the mobile phone manufacturers are buying 100 million displays a year from us. 100 million a year. With car manufacturers, the biggest ones are only buying between 1 and 2 million displays a year. So, we're nowhere near. We're 100 times smaller, even though, of course, every car is maybe 50, 100, between 50 and 100,000 euros.
Every mobile phone you don't really think about that, do you? But I guess it's a key thing. Like, it's the kind of economies of scale and different types of devices, and you have to play those games. And you strike me as quite a kind of positive guy, right? When we've spoken before. But what's your biggest advice for sales leaders going into this time ahead? From what you've seen, you've been through ups and downs of different types of things. What are you saying to sales leaders to? What's the right attitude to have?
Okay. So I'm going to say the B word.
Okay.
I mentioned the B word. So the other challenge that we have is recovering from the whole Brexit scenario.
Okay.
And what I would say there, yes, I am a very positive person. I'm very optimistic, very self-motivated. I think all leaders are self-motivated and self-driven. And I think if you're a good leader, you have to be self-motivated and you have to be positive and driven. Otherwise, how the hell will the rest of the company follow you if you are putting your head in your hands going, oh, it's doom and gloom? You've got to stay positive, and you've got to convey that positiveness in a way across. And the challenge now is, how do you bring your personality and your positiveness to all of the people who work for you when you're not in the same room?
That's right.
You have to do it through what we're doing now. You have to be in touch. You have to communicate much better. I mentioned the B word because one of the challenges is, for the UK in particular, we need to rebuild the UK brand. So there is a lot of confusion. And when I'm talking to Europe every single day, I'm on conference calls.
Me too.
In different countries. And so, and of course, I have all the people who work for me in Europe are my friends. They've worked for me for years. So I know what Europe thinks of the UK, probably better than most people. And the problem is the politicians are getting in the way of our business in a way. You've got to ignore that. My advice to all the business leaders, especially if you're a British company and you want to sell or continue selling your products outside or into Europe or whatever, is first of all, ignore the politicians, ignore what they're doing, and don't get caught up in that. Secondly, ignore the media, ignore the press. We all have mobile phones that flash up with the latest bad news of the day.
Shame you can't switch that off and say just want good news.
I know. I wish I could. I wish I could.
You could do that on football, like my football team. I only want to hear when my football team scored a goal. I don't want to hear about
exactly, and that is really bad. I mean, I know we need freedom of speech, but the media are actually responsible for conveying kind of all this bad news constantly out to people, and it goes to our customers, it goes to our staff, it goes to us. We can't be effective at that. We've got to take everything you read with a pinch of salt. You've got to I take the positives out of anything I see. When I see something that's negative, so the whole Brexit scenario and all the fake stuff that was going around, I could see through it because I was in and out of Europe every day, so I know the truth. All of the doom mongering and it's a disaster is rubbish. So people need to stay very, very positive. You need to consider that.
You need to adapt, like people have adapted with COVID. You have to find adaptations. Compliance or politicians or anything can put problems in your way. You have to jump over them and work out. That's what a leader does.
I just ignore it. So I get somebody will get a news flash of something. Oh my God, look at that! They'll phone me, and they'll go, oh, what does this mean? And I say, ignore it. Move on. You can't
That's
do anything
right.
about it anyway. Move on and plan and just focus on the positive stuff. Don't get
Yeah.
dragged down by the negative. Just stay on the positive.
That's right. And different industries are affected in different ways. Like you mentioned medical. I'm sure that, I don't know, but maybe kind of, I'm assuming medical has been quite a good kind of business for you in the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
12 months. We
Medical is
don't want to
good.
jump up and down and say, brilliant, that's because obviously of COVID, but at the same time for yourselves, it's, automotive and probably aerospace has been bad, but medical's probably been very good, right? So you just switch.
Yes. I mean, last year in Europe, I ended up at 81% of my target. But the automotive market was probably at maybe 75% of where it should have been. So I was at kind of ahead of the curve because we've got medical customers and we've got other industrial customers who weren't affected at all. So
exactly.
It's also important to spread your risk as well, to make sure that you're not reliant on just a couple of really big
one revenue stream. Yeah. And that's the whole thing. I mean, a lot of people, that leaders we've spoken about this podcast, is all about adaptation and being ready and knowing what's going to happen. And I think that's really, really key. So we talked there about innovative technology. I mean, how do you think like what your company and what the industry can provide can help companies and products evolve in the future?
How, you mean in terms of what we're developing now and how will that help other people? So, I mean, for the automotive market, then the car manufacturers have to convince us to buy a new car. Okay, cars pretty much look the same. They're all going electric for sure. Everything's going electric. We all know that, within 5 years, everything's going to be electric. But I spend a lot of time talking directly with car manufacturers about the kind of designs of the new cars, and they tell me what they're coming up with, and they want you to want the new car. Same as mobile phones. All of our customers. Why do you upgrade from your old phone to a new phone? Because it does something. Either has a bigger, better screen, or it has some functionality or a higher resolution. Why do you change the TV? Because it has a high resolution, image quality looks better. So in the displays world, we're responsible for that. We're always developing new technologies, and we've got something very new that's coming in the near future, which will change things a lot. So from
I was just going to say, Mike, to my side, sorry to be cheeky, but usually it's because I've broken the display, so I get a new phone. So if you can make up a phone that doesn't break, the screen.
You know that we can make OLED screens which are made out of plastic. They don't break.
Right.
You'd have to be going some to actually break it. But my latest phone here is an OLED screen. It's the latest from a certain brand, and it is an OLED screen. But they have a piece of glass on top of it.
Right.
I'm not quite sure why. I think the screen is fully flexible. If you look at an OLED screen, when you look at the screen on its own, it's like a piece of paper. It's fully flexible.
Right. Okay.
Made out of plastic and flexible. You can drop it. You're not going to damage it. It's fine. But the electronics behind it, which we don't make, are not. So at the moment, what's the point in having a fully flexible screen if everything that's behind it
isn't fully flexible?
Rigid,
it's very interesting, isn't it? So that's usually why I changed my phone, because I've dropped it. And okay, and so kind of moving forward, it's really about kind of adapting that as people are innovating their products, keeping your products up to speed with it.
Exactly. So they're looking for what is the latest. So I'm particularly interested in I'm a technology guy anyway, so I'm an early adopter. So if something new comes out, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh, I want that. And I've always been like that. So I'm particularly interested. So in BOE Varitronix, so in this part of the company, we are the small kind of specialist part. So we're not generally dealing with your big mobile phone and laptop manufacturers. But what we are doing is we're looking at the technology that's being developed in Asia, and we're looking out for. And one of my jobs is when I travel out there is to look out for what is coming, what's on the horizon, so that I can tell my customers and I can say, hey, and I'm working on projects right now this morning, on something that it will have a real wow factor for a British car manufacturer. And
that's amazing.
People will say, wow, I've never seen anything like that. So we're always developing stuff. We can do technology demonstrators which will blow your mind, that you look at it and say, that's incredible, but then you've got to make it commercially viable. You can't have a SAP screen that costs £20,000. It's insane. So you have to have a combination of something that you can make that is wow, and then at the same time, we've got to be able to manufacture it in high volume at a price that people can afford. So we're always kind of working on that. And one of the things I miss in not traveling for the last 12 months is going out to like our Beijing office, going behind the scenes with the scientists when they take me around the labs and they start showing me stuff, saying, "Hey, what do you think of this?"
And the tech conferences and that sort of thing. And I guess as well, like you were saying about the laptops and that sort of thing, the way they have much quicker product cycles, don't they? So I guess they have to be more innovative. So you take that where there's slower product cycles.
It's a constant race. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain we've got some customers that we've been supplying for 20 years, the same display. 20 years, because the display does what they want. The display's just
and sometimes you have like the safety critical elements, like you said, like a plane, you can't really mess about with it too much because basically the display has to be
medical devices
critical.
Are the same. So if we design in like a 12-inch screen for some kind of portable medical device, say a respirator or something like that, then they can't redesign that regularly because they have to go through approvals that cost millions of dollars. So they just want me to supply the same thing for the next 10 years. Whereas car manufacturers want something for about 3 to 5 years on average. And then they want to refresh and they want to put something new and better. They always want to move up the scale. Some industrial customers have gone from little monochrome LCD. I mean, some of our customers, they buy a full color display, a full color TFT display. And when they went from the old monochrome display and we said, why are you going to a color display? What's it adding? What's it giving you? And actually the engineer said, nothing really. It just looks better for our marketing. So they said, the mono display was perfectly fine and gave the information you need because it's a simple device. But by having a color display, when they put they do their marketing of their product, it just looks better. It's like, you wouldn't buy a mobile phone nowadays with a passive mono display like the old Nokia phones. No one would buy that because you just expect to have a color nowadays. So we've just got to keep technology moving all the time. We've just got
you get worried about like kind of voice and that sort of thing. Obviously when I speak voice. So when I speak to my Alexa, there's no display, right? Now I know that Alexa isn't perfect, but I have an Alexa has no display. So do you ever get worried about that and think, there might come to a day where there's the interaction is through voice, so therefore you don't need display as opposed to your fingers?
Okay, so we've had the capability to use our voices in cars for 15, maybe 20 years. I think I had a BMW about 20 years ago that I could use my voice to make phone calls and things like that.
Yeah.
I still don't use voice in my car.
No.
One of the biggest problems with voice is if you're relying on talking and like you mentioned Alexa and stuff, you've got background noise. So you've always got, they're trying to put it more and more in cars that you can speak to the car and the car speaks to you. But a lot of devices, if you've got background noise, then it upsets it doesn't work so well. Or it doesn't hear you. Even, as you say, Alexa, even when you're using Alexa devices, how many times do you have to repeat what you want?
Loads.
And people like screens. I'm not worried about that technology. That's just an enhancement. People like screens. People like bigger TVs. They expect to see a screen. If you get in a car and it's got tiny little screens, you feel like you're cheated. Nowadays, you expect to see a big screen.
And technology advancement.
Yeah, if you buy a TV and it's got
they're not going to get smaller, are they?
No.
And within your particular area, the last question I was going to ask is obviously on a recruitment basis, how do you see the kind of talent landscape like happening within electronics, particularly really within sales and types of people you're talking about, positive communicators, that can adapt to this world. How do you see that progressing?
Okay, so I can give you a good example. So we used you recently. Last year, we recruited a young guy. I told your team exactly what I was looking for. I wanted a young guy who had very good communication skills, very good at social media, that kind of stuff. So the kind of guy that can jump on a computer, and if I want to get a message out to someone, he's going to know how to do that, and the right kind of mindset. So in terms of our industry in the electronic sales, where we are manufacturing in Asia, and supplying in Europe, firstly, great communicators. And of course, the whole lockdown, the whole COVID situation has made that more evident. So, you know, the old fashioned sales guys that go knocking on doors, door to door, you know, they will struggle. And including the leaders, you know, I know a lot of MDs and CEOs who don't even know how to use their mobile phone. Certainly would have been struggling with Zoom and Teams and all these different things. So that, you know, going forward, I think a lot of people, some companies will be doing a lot more working from home anyway. I think that will just be a fact. So for people in my position, they definitely have to embrace the technology.
Catch up.
Exactly. They need to know what they're using. They need to, if they're not really into technology and they're not running, you know, I'm lucky I work in the technology sector, but if they're working in a totally different sector and it's not familiar for them to sit in front of a laptop from home, you know, then if they're really struggling, get themselves on a course of some kind and get their skills up, because that, I think, is the future. I think this whole, and with some of the technology we're developing, that's going to become more and more. You're going to be, the whole communicating from home and video things is technology is really coming into our lives a lot. And so you've got to embrace it. If you want to be a leader of a company, you've got to embrace it, because you need it to communicate with all the people who work for you.
That's right. And that's how, you know, the people, the new talent and stuff, you know, you have to keep up with the world, as opposed to the world has to kind of come back to your level. I think that's the right way to
exactly. And that's why when we used you for the last guy we got, I said, find me somebody who loves gadgets. Find me somebody who's a bit of a techie. And when I show him something,
see, I would have been great for that job, Mike. I could have done that job fantastically. You know?
But you know, this was me. You know, I was 22 when I started in this industry. So you know, I started in sales, and then I went into marketing, and I got excited when I saw a new screen. When the first, I mean, we didn't have the internet then. We didn't have email. You know, it was a different world when we started, and I used to get excited when a supplier said, hey, we have a color display. We're going to send you a demo of a full color display. And I was seeing, I think the company I worked for had one of the very first desktop LCD monitors. I had it on my desk when everyone in the office had a big CRT. You remember CRTs?
Yeah, the green screens.
Huge, VD unit. I had this LCD and people were coming over going, where the hell did you get that? It's like a laptop, but with a monitor. So, you know, I've always loved technology, and that I think is in our industry. I absolutely, all my team are like that. We're all into gadgets. We're all petrol heads as well, but we're in the automotive market a lot, so we all love cars and stuff. So it's I think that my advice would be, embrace technology. Keep up. Embrace technology. You can't just think, oh, I don't need to do that. And some of maybe the older generation guys that are running companies would have struggled in the last 12 months. They would have, you know, I always think of my father-in-law. He's retired now, but he's the guy that when he tries to FaceTime you, you see his ear on the screen, because he's done a FaceTime call and he's put it to his ear. So you're like, George, you know, I can always see your ear. And he's like, oh, this bloody thing, you know. So it's those, you know,
the change in the world. And I think the last time, what I've really taken from yourself, what you've said today, is all this stuff, kind of leadership, technology, is all backed up by being an excellent communicator, which obviously you are, Mike. But I think that's what you're saying is the most important thing for a leader, right?
I try. I think that's probably the most important. The thing that I work the most hard to do is to be a really good communicator, because then I can get things done. It's difficult. It's difficult, you know, at the moment, because, and it is frustrating at the moment for everyone. I'm sure there's other leaders who may watch this who will say they don't know whether half their staff are actually working, and people are not doing what they should be because they can't drag them into a boardroom and have a word with them. And so, you know, it is difficult. I find it hard to I'm quite impatient, and I find it hard to stay calm and professional and not lose it with people when they haven't done something, because you can't see what they're doing.
That's right.
The separation makes it more difficult. So you've got to kind of work even harder at the communication side of things, and
Yeah,
give people the benefit of the doubt first, and really kind of you've got to double your efforts in communicating. You can't. I find that if I send an email to Hong Kong saying, "Can you do this for me? I need it by 10 in the morning," more than 50% of the time, it won't be back by 10 in the morning. So at 8 in the morning, I'm already chasing it.
yeah.
I already know. You know,
It's a tough one, isn't it? But yeah.
but
So brilliant. Yeah. Well, Mike, it's been great to speak to you today. You know, I've really enjoyed it. It's been great to find out about the world of displays and the world of automotive, and you know, it's great to see a man. I like to think of you when you're running your global empire, going back, if you're watching the video, looking at the map of the world behind you, and planning it all
well,
out.
I like traveling.
Yeah.
So I got a big map of the world so that I can look at all the places and teach my
Yeah.
kids.
That's right.
You know, when it started years ago, when my daughter would say to me, I'd say, oh, I'm going on a trip and I have to go to somewhere like Guadalajara or something. Sometimes I have to go to the States, or, you know, Mexico or something like that. And I'd say I'm going, and then my daughter was younger and she'd say, where's that? And I'd say, come on.
There you go. That's right. Yeah.
I could, rather than just tell her, I'd show her. So
now we can
my
look.
son and my daughter both come in here sometimes.
Right. And now we can look at places where we're talking to people on the video, can't we? So yeah, exactly. Good stuff. Thank you very much today, Mike. And I, you know, here's to being able to travel to see those places in the world in the future.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.